Formula One's crazy 2023 silly season made a mockery of some teams that took certain plans for granted and rewarded those that were ruthless in getting their targets. It also left some drivers out in the cold and gave new opportunities to various others, some expected and some less so. For one team that had an especially turbulent time in the driver market though, the last few months have led to a particularly big gamble for 2023, banking on a driver that was on nobody's radar barely a year ago. The turbulent summer that cost Alpine Fernando Alonso and Oscar Piastri had various knock-on effects throughout Formula 1. Alonso's move to replace Sebastian Vettel at Aston Martin opened up a door at Alpine that Piastri was meant to fill, only he had other ideas, having secretly engineered a move to McLaren instead. That was to replace Daniel Ricciardo, who eventually agreed a payoff to leave the team early. Alpine shut the door on Ricciardo returning to the team and instead focused on prying Pierre Gasly from AlphaTauri, which it was able to do once Red Bull had missed out on Colton Herta, then identified Nick de Vries as the eventual replacement for Gasly at the sister team. Still with us? Good, because now we need to bring another team into the mix, Williams. Back when Alpine thought that Alonso was going to sign a new deal for 2023, it intended to send Piastri on loan to Williams on a 2-year deal. That looked like it would be a brilliant bit of business for Williams, which had benefited massively from taking on George Russell as a rookie from his parent team Mercedes and was set to pair Formula 2 champion Piastri alongside Alex Albon in what would have been a very competitive lineup in the midfield. But Piastri's camp didn't want him at a lower midfield team, which is a big part of what triggered the effort to move him to McLaren instead. So it doesn't matter whether Alonso stayed at Alpine or not, Piastri wasn't going to go to Williams. This put Williams on the hunt for another driver, and the new favourite for the 2023 drive became de Vries. As Mercedes reserve driver, de Vries also conducted that role with Williams. He drove for the team in Friday practice in Spain as part of the new rule requiring teams to run rookies in FP1 sessions, then stood in for Albon at short notice in the Italian Grand Prix. De Vries' superb point-scoring debut at Monza seemed to cement his place at the front of the queue at Williams. But it also put him on the radar of other teams, and this is what ultimately led him to join AlphaTauri. Williams found itself gazumped again as de Vries saw joining the Red Bull family as the best option for his future. Losing a second option in the driver market could have been a disaster for Williams and potentially meant that incumbent driver Nicholas Latifi might get a reprieve despite the team clearly not wanting to retain him. Fortunately though, Williams had an ace up its sleeve, junior driver Logan Sargent. Williams signed Sargent to its academy little over a year ago and gave him his F1 debut in the post-season Abu Dhabi test soon after. It also supported him this year in stepping up to Formula 2, where Sargent was handily piecing together a strong rookie season and had just entered a rich vein of form when everything kicked off in the summer. Having scored 2 victories to put himself in the top 3 in the championship, Williams started to view the 21-year-old as a legitimate option for its F1 team. And as the other options disappeared, Sargent suddenly became the best option. Williams boss Jost Capito claims that Sargent's promotion isn't really happening quicker than expected, but in reality it is. And there are 2 reasons he is a big gamble. The first is obvious, his experience. He's only in his first year of F2 and there's always a question mark over any rookie that enters F1, even the very best. Plus, some will inevitably wonder if this is a decision made for sporting reasons or driven by his nationality, given Sargent will be a good commercial asset in the context of F1's growing popularity in the United States. But Capito is adamant that Sargent has shown enough ability to cope with his F1 graduation, and there is an upside to this in that he is a driver with obvious potential. So as far as Williams is concerned, there was a youngster already part of its program who the team felt was ready for F1. And with some extra Friday practice sessions, the post-season Abu Dhabi test in the 2022 car and a 2021 car test program on the horizon too, Williams will do everything in its power to help Sargent be as well prepared as possible. So in Capito's words, Williams would simply have done something wrong if it didn't sign Sargent. But there's another reason he's a gamble. He doesn't even have a super license yet. Exactly where Sargent needs to finish in F2 to secure a super license depends on what bonus points he's eligible for. He currently has 28 points from his Formula 3 results and a bonus point for his FP1 outing at the United States Grand Prix for completing 100 km without earning any license penalty points. Plus, we believe that Sargent should be eligible for 2 more bonus points for completing the entire 2021 F3 season without receiving any penalty points on his licence, and that means he needs another 9 across his F2 championship position and whatever extra bonus points he can achieve. Sargent missed out on 1 in FP1 in Mexico as a late red flag cut his running short, so he didn't actually fulfil the mileage criteria. But he can get another one in FP1 in Abu Dhabi, and if he has a penalty-free F2 finale that weekend as well, he will score another 2 bonus points for a clean driving record in that championship. That should all mean that Sargent has to finish somewhere between 5th and 7th in F2 to guarantee his place on the F1 grid. Given Sargent has an 18-point gap to 8th place in the F2 standings, he's in a healthy position to secure the championship result he needs. But it's not 100% guaranteed, and if circumstances conspire against him in the F2 finale, then Williams needs to turn to its backup plan. And sorry Nicholas Latifi fans, it almost certainly won't be another chance for the Canadian. Williams' plan B without Sargent hasn't been outlined too specifically, but it's basically pick up a free agent. The only other vacancy on the 2023 grid is with Haas, and we know that the team is picking between Mick Schumacher and Nico Hülkenberg. With Haas thought to be leaning towards a Hülkenberg, yeah, now we've said it out loud, we hate us as well, then Schumacher would be available. And Capito is a big fan of Mick, who has been the most common name linked with a potential Williams move. He would seem to be a sensible fallback. He's reasonably competitive in the midfield, still has scope to improve, and would be a decent backup to Alex Albon. Plus, he may thrive in the slightly more arm around the shoulder atmosphere at Williams, as sometimes it's felt like Mick, or at least the team around him, haven't taken too kindly to the blunt approach often taken by Günther Steiner at Haas. Another free agent with a super license is Antonio Giovinazzi, although we can't imagine Williams will be particularly interested in the sporadically quick but unreliable Italian. Instead, we wonder if Williams might eye another F2 driver who actually does have a super license. No, not 2022 champion Felipe Drugovich, but Alpine protege Jack Doohan. This would probably work in the way the Piastri deal was meant to. Doohan sent to Williams on loan for 2 years with a view to a future Alpine seat if he progresses well. Doohan is an interesting driver. He's only 19, has shown flashes of mega pace, but is erratic and prone to getting a bit emotional when things heat up on track. But he has also massively impressed Alpine with his off-track work ethic, and while he's set for another year of F2 in 2023, the team would be very interested in a loan deal if an F1 seat became available. Ultimately, the list of options isn't too extensive or stunning for Williams, and that might speak to a bit of weakness in the F1 talent pool at the moment, but it's reasonably solid, especially when you think Williams is already on its third choice driver anyway. That this element of jeopardy even exists is entirely in keeping with the unlikely circumstances that have conspired to make Sargent's move possible in the first place. Having already been through a crazy few months in the driver market, Williams will be praying that he can avoid the story taking another twist.